Ben Shapiro attacking Tucker first on his interview with Hunter Biden. So let's watch that.
Tucker Carlson, Hunter Biden, the besties with testes from way back when, who definitely are not 100% part of some kind of establishment deep state uniparty in DC, and are also definitely not from wealthy families and are now fomenting idiotic revolution from behind their podcast microphones. Hunter Biden and Tucker Carlson's recent podcast together is two spoiled brats saying spoiled brat things. Tucker and Hunter are in the same world. Remember, Tucker is the man of the people. He's flannel-clad Maine boy who's just sitting over there in his cabin doing some hunting and fishing. Except for the fact that Tucker Carlson is a silver spoon jacket who vacations in yachts on the Mediterranean and has known Hunter Biden for decades and is friends with him. If you are so stupid that you believe the people who stand for you are rich boy, Richie Rich, like grew up rich boy, Tucker Carlson at his Swiss boarding school, living in a fake cabin in Maine with the Gaston chandelier, talking to Hunter Biden, longtime drug addict and complete piece of shit, about how America needs them and their human hearts, along with that of Candace Owens, to fix what ails the country. Oh my God, man.
Okay, so we're gonna get to Tucker's response, and then I'm gonna show you real wealth that's backing Ben Shapiro. But first, before I do any of that, Elliot, let me bring you in. So far, how do you score this one? Was that one persuasive on why we should hate Tucker Carlson?
No, not at all. I have a little bit of a pet peeve when folks are like, well, actually they grew up rich, so therefore all of their opinions are wrong. Like if your opinion is that, for example, we should give people, I don't know, health care, or make sure they can actually access education, I personally don't really care. It's like when they go after Bernie and they go, oh, he owns this many houses, therefore he must be insincere. And I think you can have money and also want the government to spend it on its people, and I don't think there's any contradiction there, and I don't think that Ben's audience is necessarily going to buy it either, but I don't know if they have it.
Yeah, well, FDR was very wealthy, and they considered him a traitor to his class, and he said, I welcome their hatred.
Yeah.
Right, and so now, of course, and by the way, Tucker is heir to the Swanson fortune, and he did make a lot of money at Fox News, that's true. Ben Shapiro, also incredibly wealthy, grew up in a wealthy family. So if you apply his logic, we shouldn't listen to anything he says either. Which, by the way, maybe I may take that deal, right? But I don't think that's how it works. So okay, Tucker is going to fire back. Let's watch.
If people across the country of all parties are saying grocery prices are insane, then you should probably think long and hard about what to do about that, if you can. And there's no poll taken in the last year that shows that people are more concerned about the Iranian nuclear program or Islamic Jihad or some Muslim group far away than they are about the price of Skippy peanut butter. So the whole point of Ben Shapiro, and there is a point to Ben Shapiro, this is not like some organic phenomenon, like Ben Shapiro was just so charming and brilliant that he somehow got into Harvard Law School and then eyebrows and all emerged as a social media titan. No, of course not. Ben Shapiro had a deal with Facebook, a deal no one else got from day one. The point was Ben Shapiro was going to sell this very specific version of economics, not capitalism. It bears no resemblance to anything Adam Smith advocated for, but the kind of modern American monopoly arrangement where 6 companies can behave like countries, have sovereignty, unlike our own nation, and control every part of your life through debt, which is kind of broad but fairly accurate definition of our current economic system.
So I'll give you my thoughts on that, how I scored that one, and then I'm going to back up one thing that Tucker said with facts. So first, on what do Americans care more about, jihadists or Skippy peanut butter, i.e. prices? That's a landslide. They care a lot more about prices, and the polling shows that. Plus, they've never seen a jihadist in their life other than Fox News say, look at this scary Muslim dude who lives 2,800 miles away from you and has no way of reaching you, but Israel would like us to kill him. Are you more concerned about that or gas prices that you can't pay and a mortgage you can't pay? And Ben Shapiro was like, no, well, obviously the jihadists. Israel has to kill him. Give me your money to kill that guy, okay? That's the most important thing. Well, the polling indicates that people support Tucker Carlson's position about 1,000 times more than they support Ben Shapiro's position on that issue. Then Tucker implied that Shapiro didn't get into Harvard on his own. I'd be very surprised by that. He's a relatively bright guy, seems to have done well academically. Harvard's not easy to get into, even if you bribe people, although the Kushners, I think, they gave $2 million, and then all of a sudden, Jared and Josh, who are not stellar students, did get into Harvard. So that does happen from time to time, but I'd be surprised if that applied to Ben Shapiro. Secondly, he said something about how his eyebrows surprisingly didn't hold him back in media. Well, from the eyebrow community, I have to say, thick eyebrow community, I say that hasn't held me back much either, so I don't think that's right. But in terms of being backed by wealthy benefactors, that's the one, Elliot, that they took the most umbrage. Like, how dare you suggest that somebody might be helping Ben Shapiro for propaganda purposes? So let me go to The Guardian and let's find out if that type of thing happens, okay? So 2 billionaire Texas brothers, they explain, whose fortunes derive from oil and gas fracking, have pumped millions of dollars into right-wing media outfits that have promoted climate crisis denialism and sent more big checks to back an array of evangelical projects and conservative Texas politicians. So this is from a while back when they were first forming the Daily Wire and PragerU, etc. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the one group that they know for a fact. There are many other benefactors just like this, but let me give you more details on it. The two brothers have given at least $8 million to PragerU, which is unaccredited, according to the Texas financial records. In July, Florida approved the use of what PragerU has called its edutainment videos and other materials for use in its classrooms, and PragerU has said it is trying to get other states, including Texas, to do likewise. Well, how about Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro? Well, in 2015, Ferris Wilks gave $4.7 million to launch the Daily Wire and remains an owner of the media company whose founding editor and co-owner, Ben Shapiro, has forged ties with Dennis Prager, the PragerU founder and talk show host. Shapiro and Prager are slated to attend a PragerU founders retreat in September for donors who give at least $100,000 a year. I'm sure none of them are wealthy or grew up wealthy. I mean, otherwise we'd have to discount all their opinions that Ben Shapiro is puppeting because he's getting paid this money. And some of them are apparently investors, but you saw there, some of them are just donors. So they're just like, here, we give you this money, and then you say what we want. You say, hey, puppet man, say drill, baby, drill. And other donors say, Israel's the greatest, kill all the Muslims, right? And other donors want other parts. How many of them have bought a piece of Ben Shapiro? We don't know, but this brother complaining about wealth is hilarious. And then is Tucker Carlson saying the truth about how he has wealthy benefactors? Indisputably, 100% empirically correct. I have a personal story that I'll share with you guys in a second about that. But one last thing, not related to Shapiro, but I wanted you to know from that same Guardian article. They explain historically the two brothers have also backed a number of right-wing Texas Republicans, including Senator Ted Cruz, whose abortive run for president in 2016 was bolstered by $15 million they gave to a pro-Cruz super PAC. So, Elliot, it's not just right-wing media, it's mainstream media pretending that Tucker Carlson is some sort of lunatic for saying that there might be tons of money going into media outlets like Daily Wire to get back a message that is pro-fracking or pro-Israel. Isn't that like media and politics these days 101? I mean, how brazen a liars are in corporate media that they cover the tracks of Ben Shapiro on this?
Yeah, it's one of maybe the least surprising stories, I would say, because, I mean, this is nothing new. It was ExxonMobil's own scientists that they sent out all over the world, and they came back and said, yep, according to the data, the planet's heating up and it's due to the burning of fossil fuels. And then Exxon fired those scientists and they ended the research and they unleashed a massive propaganda campaign, even using some of the same people that tried to convince Americans that there was no link between cigarettes and lung cancer earlier in the 20th century, which later led to the tobacco industry having to pay tons and tons of money. And then even throughout the 20th century, there were multiple what are called persuasion vehicles, and they didn't really take off until after the Second World War with the combination of mass media and then insights from like psychology and advertising. And throughout the 20th century, they pelted the nation with literally billions of messages specifically designed to turn people away from the idea that the government could help its own citizens via domestic economic programs. And so they would put in advertorials, which are basically made to look like actual articles, but they are bought and paid for. So this is like a tale as old as time. The idea that everyone's going, no, this is absolutely unconscionable is a little ridiculous, I think.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you my personal story where I know Ben Shapiro's got benefactors, and I'm gonna give you his closing statement in a second. But I wonder if they workshop this, where they're like, okay, now look, if they're opposed to funding Israel, we'll call them anti-Semites and try to destroy their lives, their careers, and make sure that they are destitute for the rest of their lives and are hated by everyone. So here's a bunch of money to do that, Ben, okay? The fracking guys are like, all right, let's workshop this. How about we call them anti-Semites? Anti-frackites. Let's call them anti-frackites and then try to destroy their careers, and they're biased against fracking and they're being racist against fracking. Okay, and these bigots against natural gas. Come on, right? Maybe that one didn't work as well. So they landed on drill, baby, drill. And the reason I read you the Ted Cruz part is you see how it's all coordinated. Same guys giving money to the politicians and the media. So we need the politicians to go in there and vote in our favor, and we need the media to trick people into voting for them. So that's why if I'm gonna finance Ted Cruz, I have to finance Ben Shapiro and the propaganda that'll help Ted Cruz and Donald Trump win. And that's how this game is played. And part of the reason that they're pissed at Tucker is, let's keep it real, and he keeps it real on this. He was part of that operation at Fox News, and he has apologized for it. So there is a well-oiled propaganda machine. Now Tucker is broken off from that, and there's still positions we don't agree on, for sure. But now there are positions we do agree on, because he's starting to become more honest and not affected by all the money that's pouring in to do propaganda. Now he's getting his money from the audience. So now all of a sudden the rest of that propaganda machine is irate, because to them, Tucker is not just opposed to what they're saying, he's exposing the game, and they view him as a traitor.
Also, I mean, what does it say about Ben Shapiro that, Tucker Carlson came from all of this money, and yet he somehow has a better grasp on where Americans are at with affordability than Ben Shapiro? Like, what's going on that this guy who I guess you should completely discount because he had a silver spoon is somehow able to pick up on the fact that people aren't happy with where things are right now? And then you have Ben Shapiro going, actually, no, it's your fault that you can't afford a burrito or whatever.
Yeah, and in fact, that's actually split all the conservatives, because now Matt Walsh, who works for Ben Shapiro, Benny Johnson, and Jack Posobiec are on the side of maybe a $20 burrito is not a good idea. Maybe we should try to at least fake helping people, right? Instead of just constantly yelling at them and saying, shut up and pay for whatever the burrito costs and like it, okay? Give me more money. And of course, on the other side, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and Mark Thiessen all saying affordability not that big a deal. Oh, look at that there. Every one of them is for the war and Israel first. They think the money should be directed to the war instead. Huh, what a coincidence. All right, let's let Ben make the closing on it.
Tucker Carlson was shouting at the walls of his cosplay cabin in Maine about boy slop and burritos and Israeli influence operations. Help as a body good. Because there is actually a metric ton of anti-American slop being shovel-fed to all of us these days. I want to do something slightly different today. I want to talk about the actual American dream. I know we are all supposed to be demoralized and upset. And we're all supposed to believe and claim that no one anymore has any shot at getting ahead in America, that the American dream is dead, that we need something brand new, by which most people mean some idea that was tried centuries ago, 4 centuries, and then failed, like over and over and over. And most of those bad ideas revolve around a very, very basic failed idea that people are addicted to, that there ought to be a special cadre of elite people who direct the economy toward their specific ends. That your individual freedoms are actually destructive. That you ought to have your choices circumscribed so that they can build whatever it is they want to build. For Hassan Piker, total economic leveling in poverty. For Zoran Mamdani, third world ascendancy and American weakness. For Tucker Carlson, an agrarian feudal state. For the Muslim Brotherhood, Dar al-Islam.
If you got hit, even if you were not driving, you need to try this.
Because if you were in a car accident in the last year, you could be owed a large cash payment and not even know it. Even if you weren't driving, all you have to do is click the link.
That is amazing, man. Did you catch that? Where he said there's a small group of wealthy interests that redirect the government to do their own interests rather than the public's. Brother, you just described AIPAC. And the Wilkes brothers and the oil and gas industry and Big Pharma and everyone who bribes Congress. It's not complicated. Is the Muslim Brotherhood giving a lot of money to Congress? $0. They're not even here. They used to be in Egypt, and then they got taken out in Egypt. Okay, the Muslim Brotherhood? Does anybody see the Muslim Brotherhood like getting the congressman to say, no, remember everybody, Muslim Brotherhood is fantastic. We've got to send all your money to Muslims, and especially Muslim fundamentalists. You know, I've seen 0 people do that in American media, in American politics. I do see every politician going out there, Israel! I see Israel in my dreams. I came here to serve Israel, right? Gee, I wonder who the wealthy folks are that are redirecting our country to help their interests. So, and oh yeah, the Tucker is going to back to agrarian feudalism. Oh yeah, I'll tell you, the agrarian feudalists have so much power in this country. What? Okay, what a lunatic thing. So Elliot, my personal story is Ben and I had the same agent a while back. And so we go in, and I've never told this story before, okay? And they're super excited. They're like, oh, Ben gets paid a lot for the college speeches, and he's the right wing thing, and you're the left wing, so we'll make money here. Agents want to make money, good agents, right? And we're like, okay, sure, yeah, that sounds good. And we'd like to get our message out to all these colleges, so that's a win-win, right? Come back a month later, we're like, what happened? Where's all the speeches? We're like, yeah, so it turns out that the money for that is being paid by wealthy benefactors. And they're arranging the speeches and paying for them. And they don't want to arrange speeches for you, and they don't want to pay. Oh, but I'm sure it's conspiratorial and wildly outrageous that people would suggest this. Come on, man. Like, you don't, like, anyone pretending to not know that there are incredibly wealthy corporations and other folks who are paying off media and politicians to get exactly what they want. If you're a reporter or a journalist and you're pretending that that isn't real, I got bad news for you. You're not a reporter or a journalist. You're a propagandist for those same wealthy elites. So, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, also there's 12,000 lobbyists in Washington, D.C., and they're all acting on behalf of other rich people's interests at the expense of the American people who elected these folks. That said, I will say agrarian feudalism from the Muslim Brotherhood does sound kind of cool. So Ben Shapiro's got that going for him, I guess.
Yeah, how would that work? Okay, the Muslim Brotherhood takes over all the farms.
Absolutely.
And you know what? The giant corporations that own them now, they're gonna be like, oh, just go ahead. Yeah, take it. Yeah.
They love that.
Yeah, because Muslims in this country have so much, but they say this with a straight face. Yeah, no, the people supporting Israel don't have any power in this country. They're the poor little victims. But the Muslims, oh my God, the power and the wealth that they have. And they've been pushing people around this whole time. That's why we live under Sharia law. That's why we've spent $300 billion. Oh no, that was to Israel. That's why we started 7 wars that cost us $8 trillion to help the Muslims. Oh no, that was also Israel. Okay, so whether you think Tucker Carlson won or not, there's no question Ben Shapiro lost. And by the way, the audience agrees. So we asked you guys if you had to support one or the other on tyt.com. If you're forced to so far, 100% the Tucker Carlson. Although to be fair, it just got started. You could also see that on our YouTube channel under post. I encourage you guys to vote there or on tyt.com. But that's the left-wing audience. The right-wing audience has already voted. Ben Shapiro's audience is down to near zero, and Tucker Carlson is the most popular right-wing host in the country. That might have settled it. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.
For all the things you have to do and places you need to be, let Uber take you there. Because you had just one more 3 rounds ago. Because the 5 a.m. flight seemed like a good idea at the time. Because check engine lights always appear at the worst possible times. And because parking downtown is a nightmare. Because there are nights out, airport trips, and car troubles in your area, there are drivers in your area. Uber. Request a ride today. Wait time varies. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
We've got Donald Trump falling apart at the seams. We have the counterattacks. Nobody makes a big deal out of it, right? So Israel has obliterated Gaza and is now obliterating Lebanon. But if
that only 17% of those Ukrainians surveyed would accept a peace plan on Russian terms, with 76% of respondents categorically against such compromises. And then you had different levels of support for, at that point, what was kind of the European plan. There's a certain level of support, less so for the United States plan, which obviously was tilted quite a bit towards Russia anyway. That was, of course, last year, so the numbers might well have moved, and maybe Russia's position has moved as well. We know from earlier today, there was reporting that Moscow is saying they're ready to listen to new ideas for ending the war, although a senior Russian diplomat said that the proposed deal would still have to align with President Putin's position, which that second part seems to contradict the first, but at least there maybe is some openness. They said that the proposals have to be in line with realities on the ground. So as always, it comes down to who seems to have the momentum, who seems to need an end to it faster, which is why, Jake, perhaps if Russia has more of a capacity to take out Ukrainian civilians, then maybe they don't feel they need to give up as much. Maybe they feel they need to be given more to negotiate a deal. Although, as you point out, Ukraine has also shown an increased capacity to hit Russia as well, including all the way over in Moscow.
Yeah. So, all right, let's break this down. First of all, I'm going to invent something here. It's always fun. It's called Thanks Israel. This is kind of like Thanks Obama, except it's real. So, first of all, double taps used to be considered monstrous and a horrific war crime. Now everybody's doing it. So Israel started with the double taps. Oh, not only are we going to hit a hospital, when people come to rescue the sick and injured in the hospital, we'll hit it again and murder them too, right? And now America did it in the girls' school we hit in Iran. Ukraine's doing it, Russia's doing it, everybody's doing double taps. Like, oh yeah, the rescue workers have come, let's murder them, it's the new norm. That should not be the new norm, and so brought to you by, of course, the terrorist state of Israel. Number two, we're now out of defensive missiles, not just for Ukraine, but for us. Okay, so we gave our defensive missiles, tons of them to Ukraine. Then we started a totally gratuitous war with Iran that I'm calling Miriam's War. And by the way, it's only me that's calling it Miriam's War. But really, Miriam Adelson and her Israeli family, that's literally who she is, she's an Israeli citizen, gave over $300 million to Donald Trump over 3 runs, and they had a list of demands. And Trump has talked publicly about how he has complied with their demands, like moving the US Embassy in Israel, and he's listed them publicly. And one of her demands was start a war for Israel. And it doesn't matter what the cost is. Now the cost is, well, if we're attacked here in America, we're almost out of interceptor missiles. I mean, that is a massive vulnerability.
Yeah.
Huge issue, right? But then number 2 consequence is now Ukrainian sad day for you. Now the Gulf countries already know about this because after the Iran war started, even though we have bases, we barely protected our own troops and our own bases. That's why we have a lot of dead troops, and we have over 600 casualties overall in the Iran war, because we are spending our interceptor missiles on our #1 priority. Arkansas, just kidding, of course not, that's an American state. On Israel, right? So Israel gets all the protection, and now Ukraine's like, well, what the hell? Well, Ukraine just tried to broaden the war for Israel. They attacked the Iranian ship a couple of weeks ago, trying to drag Russia into the war, which could create World War III. But hey, it would help Israel, because then America would have to fight against Russia as well. It's some insane thing that they decided to be a part of. How's that working out for you, your alliance with Israel? Oh, right, they took all your defensive missiles and now your civilians are dying. Well played, Ukraine. Great job partnering up with Israel. See how that worked out. Now, the last part that's thanks Israel is now no one ever agrees to end any wars. Because Israel's like, oh yeah, we're not gonna end any wars. We're never gonna listen to a ceasefire. We're gonna start new wars and new wars and new wars, and we're just gonna call it self-defense. So, haha, no wars ever end, okay? So these are disastrous trends, all started in recent history by Israel. Okay, now we go to Ukraine's main issue here, Ukraine war. So guys, we hear the Ukrainian perspective all the time because they're our ally. Right? Oh God damn it, Russia is bombing Kyiv, like we're reporting to you today. 17 people killed, disastrous. They're hitting critical infrastructure, not civilian infrastructure, but critical infrastructure. The Russians say that it's military areas, etc. But the line is super blurry. You're hitting in the middle of a crowded urban area, right? And a lot of the people killed are civilians. So boo Russia. Russia's definitely doing wrong. Now, what you probably don't hear very often is Ukraine is doing the same thing to Russia, okay? So they've sent over 600 drones in recently to hit different targets in Russia, and they're hitting Moscow over and over again. And they've killed 16 people inside Moscow, including a kid. So there are no clean hands here. Now, at the end of the day, Russia started the war, so that makes a huge difference. But this has devolved. We're in a giant, messy war. Nobody's winning. Civilians are getting hurt. Both countries are hurt. And at the end of the day, whether Putin gets to say, I control some of the territory, or Ukraine does, I know the territory matters, obviously, right? But like the egos of the guys up top are driving 90% of this, and people are dying for no reason. The correct answer is obviously get to a peace deal. And part of the reason they don't is because, oh, Ukraine has a slight advantage. Now we don't want the peace deal. Russia has a slight advantage. No, we don't want the peace deal. Yeah. Well, remember, you might have a slight advantage today, but this war has gone back and forth, and you might be in dire situation tomorrow. So do a peace deal already, for God's sake. You're not gonna get everything you want. It sucks. That's the nature of peace deals. Usually the other side doesn't go, okay, you take whatever you like. Again, this is an Israeli idea, which, and by the way, backed up by Donald Trump completely, which is, we get everything we want, no matter what our leverage is. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, you're totally screwed. I don't care, I got everything I want anyway. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Israel's like, I want every Palestinian to be disarmed, to have no power, and then buried in the ground, and then punched in the face, and then for them to humiliate themselves. And it's, yeah, but that's not a reasonable thing to ask for, right? Yeah. Get to goddamn peace already, and nobody's willing to do it. And lastly, John, the hypocrisy drives me crazy. So, okay, Russia attacks, Ukraine counterattacks, nobody makes a big deal out of it, right? So Israel has obliterated Gaza and is now obliterating Lebanon. But if a Palestinian or a Lebanese person, and yes, including Hamas and Hezbollah, but it doesn't have to be just them, there's also Armenian militias fighting back against Israel in southern Lebanon, okay? Or it could be individuals because you killed their kids, right? But if any Arab dares to fight back against Israel, terrorist, the worst person alive, how dare you fight back? Everyone else in the world has a right to self-defense. Ukraine does, Russia does, Israel does, America does, everyone does, except if you're an Arab, then our disgustingly bigoted media in unison go, terrorists, terrorists, destroy them, kill them more, kill them more, kill them more, kill them more, and you all have to pay for it. So just understand, that the word terrorism is a made-up propaganda tool used by Israel and its allies here in America to smear Arabs and Muslims, and these days some Christians, and to help facilitate their murder better. It is not evenly applied at all, and it is not ever used in the largest terrorist state in the world, and that's Israel, with a worse civilian kill ratio than Hamas or Hezbollah or any terrorist group, and that has killed now 75 times the number of civilians that those terrorist groups killed. But if you do 75 times worse, our media goes, you're the victim. As long as you're Israel, oh, self-defense. So are the Palestinians allowed self-defense? They go, no, you terrorist, shut up and die harder, right? And that's not just like fringe people, that's everyone on cable news, that's everyone in our government.
It is literally everyone. And they will deny that, but they believe it. They believe it to their bones. They don't have the right, and I would go farther. I think that the vast majority fundamentally don't think of Palestinians as people. They think of them as a thing. They're just a thing that happens to be there. It would really be better if they weren't there. Maybe we could move them away or something. But they indisputably are the only people that do not get to defend themselves and their families.
Yeah, and then they get smeared afterwards too. Like, how dare you try to defend yourself? The rights, the only right a Palestinian has, according to American media, is the right to die. That's it. You don't have any rights at all. How dare you object to your superiors, okay? And that's how our disgusting cable news anchors act every single day, let alone the pundits who are almost all Israeli assets. And if you think that's an exaggeration, no, we're gonna show you later in today's show, Van Jones absolutely humiliating himself for Israel. So whether it's Scott Jennings or Van Jones, oh, look at that. The right-wing pundit and the left-wing pundit all agree Israel is the greatest gift to humanity and all the Palestinians should be murdered at our expense. Wow, what a coincidence. We gotta free America, man. So we're totally and utterly occupied by Israel. Cable news is occupied by Israel, and Washington is occupied by Israel. And the only people who don't acknowledge that are the brainwashed that watch cable news, and of course, the Israeli assets running media and the government in our country. Yeah. Okay, if you don't like it, kiss my ass. Okay, let's keep going. Let's do the next story. So let's bring it up here.
People want to get out of it.
So one of Israel's most prominent terrorists, their national security minister, Ben-Gvir, was jumping for joy on the progress that Israel has made on its gallows, where they're going to murder Palestinians with glee. Of course, the rules do not apply to Jewish citizens. We'll come back to that. And he's also saying that maybe we should start mass genocide in another capital of a neighboring country, because of course it's another day.
Get a GoDaddy website, email, and matching domain bundled together for one low price. It's everything you need to bring your business online.